Matt is here and Sheree is here to help answer questions about business practices, meaning basically I'm here to show you how the software will work and go through the mechanical aspects of what you're going to be doing. I do understand the project, but obviously Matt and Sheree and Jen are the folks who are really on top of everything day to day. So they're going to jump in when I'm confused or when I get something wrong. But in general, if you have any, business process related questions, it will be to them rather than to me. I think that's mostly it. Matt, I don't know, how do you want to handle questions as we go along? Do you want them to type into the chat box? Do you want folks to hold questions and me stop at a couple of places? Do you care?
Yeah, let's, guys, if you have, Kat, why don't you stop at places, and then while Kat's talking, you guys have questions, if you want to just enter them into the chat box, then I'll make sure, I'll just monitor those, and so that anytime, Kat, that you stop, we can answer anyone that people just want to ask, and then just in case people want to make sure they get them in, we can also go through whatever's been submitted so far through the chat.
Okay, cool, thanks. And are you recording this?
I am.
Okay. I just wanted to, I did a webinar the other day and I forgot to press record until like 20 minutes in. And I was like, ew. So, okay.
I remember.
Yay. All right. So thanks again for being here. This is the main screening app screen, to use all the technical terms. And when you first come to this website, it's actually going to be a different URL than the one that we're looking at today. So don't worry about that. That'll be reflected in the final manual. For now, this is the address that we're using, rtmdesigns.com/AHC_screening. When you come to that URL, excuse me, what will happen is you will be asked to log in with your AHC login, and then you'll come to this screen. So it just gives you a little bit of overview about why you're here, and then what will happen is you will select the site at which you're working. The screening, as you know, is the same regardless of which site you're at, but we obviously want to keep track of which sites are filling out which screenings.
And so this step, sorry, Kat.
No, go.
Yeah, just to be clear, this step is this is where you would start if you're starting from scratch getting somebody's paper screen. If you're working at a site with someone else who is assigned the data enter the paper screens, you're actually going to start. If the screens have already been entered, you'll start at the next step. But if you are working and you're getting a paper screen from a patient who's filled it out, this is where you would start.
Okay. And you'll notice when I choose the screening site, really nothing has happened. Down at the bottom, there is a continue button once you've chosen the site from the list. So when you click on continue, and that's where you notice that's where all of the navigation is found. Right now, the back option is the only one that you have here at the bottom. The continue option is grayed out because we haven't filled out any information yet. So I'll just do this real quick and then we'll go get into the next step. And obviously you want to enter the birth date with all 4 digits for the year, gender, and then after you finish putting in the person's complete information, you're going to click on submit. You'll get a notice at the top that says that the client information is updated. Updated isn't really the right phrase. They probably should have said saved, but because it's regardless of whether the person was in there or not, but you get the idea. Once you say OK to that message, now you see that our continue button is activated for us down here at the bottom for navigation. And then you've all, I'm sure, seen this screening, who's answering the survey, and then all the different questions. All the questions are required, and you cannot move forward until you answer the questions on any particular screen. So that's why you notice that the continue button is grayed out. If you do not live in the community, if you live in an assisted living facility, psychiatric, correctional, and you choose one of those choices, you'll notice that there was a pop-up message that says the beneficiary is not community dwelling. The screening does not continue. So for those scenarios, you would say OK, and then you would click on end. If the person is not in any of those facilities, you obviously would click none of above, and then after you fill out the rest of the questions, you would go to continue, and you would just go through each of the different pages of the screening. You can, if for some reason you need to start all the way over, you'll notice that that button has become available here at the start over in the lower. That's the only thing that's a little bit different about this application, is that the navigation is down at the bottom. So just something to keep in mind, and you may have already seen that. Any questions about that so far? Okay.
Yeah, there was a question.
Oh, go.
Yeah, I got a question to the chat. Making sure that just that if a patient doesn't fill out the full screening, that we can proceed, leaving questions blank, which I think was accounted for.
Okay.
I think you're able to just fill in. Like, let's say they didn't answer question 4. You should still be able to.
Oh, you are. Okay. Apologies.
Yep.
Yeah,
that was
I
resolved.
misstated.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to double check that had been, because I know with the first version that was not the case. And see right there, is it letting you?
Yeah, no. So you may want to double check.
Issues with that. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
you may want to check with
some of the pages,
them,
but not all of them.
Right. Because I think that these are the critical things, or whatever you call these determinants. But we'll clarify that with the software company, and so and then we'll make sure that that's reflected in the final version of the manual.
Yeah, you will be able to move all the way through, even if you have an incomplete screening.
Okay. Then step 2, which would occur if the person had already filled out their screening, you are going to log into ReferNET. Depending upon your operating system, generally you will have an icon that looks like this. It may be called Remote Desktop, it might be called Refer, might be called ReferNET. I'm not sure what is happening in your shop, but it does look like this little monitor. When you double click on it, you open this remote desktop connection. This is just a way that you're logging into a particular server. It's really pretty similar to going into a browser. It's just a little bit different interface. So what you want to do, and there's an instruction sheet for this that I'll make sure that Matt has, that he can pass out to you all. Many of you have already been logging in. The computer name that we're logging into is rtmcentral.net. And then the username, you're going to put RTM Designs, plural. And I'm sure this is difficult to see on your screen. I can't make it any bigger. I apologize. RTM Designs / the slash that leans to the left, ACH dot your last name dot your first initial. Whatever you're using to typically log in would be what you're using. Then we type in, on the next screen, we will type in the password. Okay. You can say remember me, but it doesn't always work. So, and this message, don't worry about this. It's a long story why you get this, but just always say yes. It's safe to log into their server.
And Sheree just wanted us to stress, because I know a lot of folks who've been working on the phones have generally been logging in with a CUI username to get into kind of your standard 211 stuff. Just wanted to stress, you saw that Kat logged in with the AHC prefix, especially for this project, because we're, obviously collecting patient information and working with, under kind of HIPAA requirements. I mean, you can't even get into AHC through CUI, so you'll know you've made a mistake if you do CUI dot last name dot first initial rather than AHC. But anytime you're doing any work on the auspices of AHC, you're just doing your username with the AHC prefix rather than a CUI prefix. So AHC, not right. CUI. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and then as Matt said, you won't see anyone who's logged into CUI. You see that there's a bunch of choices after you log in. That you saw that I went straight here. There weren't any other choices. You could also double check that you're in the right database up here on the right hand side, near the very top of the screen. It says AHC version 7758. So that's a double checking that you know that you're in the right database. Once you get here, there's, sometimes you may see a message for you. It's just a quick, information piece. Generally, there won't be many, if any. Sometimes you'll see messages here on the right. These are from the software company. So generally, it's nothing for you to do. It's just announcing, a new feature. You can see the last one was all the way back in March, and it's a new feature. You may not even see some of these messages, depending upon your permissions. When I click on Contact Module, I come to the main home screen. If you have any follow-ups, they'll be displayed in the center, and we'll talk about this in a little while. But in terms of the AHC work, on the right-hand side is where we're going to be getting our transaction that we want to work with. Right now, you see that it's blank. If it was blank and the radio button at the bottom is clicked to My Incomplete, you should go to All Incomplete. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. But basically what happens is when whomever started the screening with the folks on site, what gets saved into the database is called an incomplete contact. So that's what's here on the right. These are folks that have gone through the particular screening. You can see that, for example, this second one is not community dwelling screening, did not occur or did not continue. So this is all that information that we were recording in the app, the website that you just saw. And it also gives you a little bit more information, the person's Medicaid ID, their phone number, their address. Once we determine which client we would like to work with, anytime in ReferNet you see this light blue color, like you see in the center for the follow-up and you see here on the left, on the right rather, light blue in ReferNet signifies that if you double click on it, something is going to happen. Typically what ends up happening is that something will open. So if I want to work with Douglas Demo and take his information, I can just go over, double click that transaction line. And what it does is it pulls Douglas information into ReferNet. So all of the information that had been captured in the initial interview is here. His birthday, his phone number, name, obviously, address. And you notice that here at the top, the contact type is the standard AHC screening and assessment. There's a couple of different contact types, and we'll talk about those as we go through. But this is the main screen that you're going to come into in Refer. From here, after the, on the initial screening and assessment, what we're going to do is if the client needs services, we will do a search, just like those of you who've been working in CUI for 211. Just the same way that you would always search. Click on search. It's put the zip code and the city, the age and the gender into my search boxes for me. It did not populate the county. That's something that we're working on with the software folks. We're going to try and get the county populated. But then you just do a regular search. So if the client is looking for food, or actually if the client we think might be eligible for SNAP, food stamps, we can type in SNAP. We could have also typed in food. Click on go. And we've got food stamps right at the top. Double click, again, the light blue color, double click it. It goes into our services for search box. I click on search. Oops, I needed to select the county. What county are you? I'm sorry.
Cuyahoga. Is that something I'm supposed to pick? Or is that, why is that doing that? I don't remember.
I think it's an RTM thing. I think they need to
I think so
something.
too. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just keeping notes of all this stuff.
Yeah, good. Thanks. Because I can't talk and write at the same and click at the same time. So just like a regular search, for those of you that have been already using the software, when I do the food stamps, we've got, you know, within 1 mile, we've got the Job and Family Services on Payne, and then we've got the West Shore on Lorraine, and then you can scroll through. If you are going to make a referral to a particular service, excuse me, you just click to go into the detail screen. You can give the client all of the different information, who might qualify, how the service is provided, and then you can click on Save Referral here in the top center. Do you want to make a referral? Yes. And then it brings you back to the match list. So if there were multiple places you wanted to refer the person, you can make as many referrals as necessary. You can also search for more services. You can search for up to 3 different services at once. So if you thought that maybe they would qualify for SNAP, and then you wanted to also give them some benefits, assistance, and food vouchers, you could do that search for all 3 at once. Okay. When we're done making referrals, we want to end the contact. Oh wait, now I screwed up. Are we doing the action plan now? No, we're just making the referrals and closing, right?
We need a client. I mean, as long as we have a client.
Did I skip that whole thing?
I was helping someone with something, so I'm not sure, but I think
yeah,
I have.
I did. Yeah, yeah, because I was thinking that they pulled it in as a client, but they didn't. Okay. All right. Sorry, people. I kind of skipped the kind of a critical step. Right now, what we have to do is, even though this person's information is in the system, as of right now, June 26th, we still need to find the client within the software. This is something that the developers are working on so that you won't have to do a search, because it's kind of confusing that it looks like the person's already in there. So when you open your incomplete contact, you're coming onto this people screen. You're going to click on Find Client, and you're going to see if this person is already in the database. So I can see there are no matching people. So what I'm going to do is click on Add New, and then I'm going to put in the person's information. So Douglas.
Back out.
Oh,
Can you go
I'm
back
sorry?
out and do it to show them where? Can you just start over from when they would first come in, where they would go to, so they know exactly where to start? Or can we
Sure.
go out over? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry, folks. I didn't mean to be confusing. Okay. So we're going to come to refer. We're going to log in. We're going to go to incomplete. If there's none listed, we're going to click on all incomplete. And then we're going to see which client we're going to be working with. Double click on that, the title bar. You're going to come to the people page, and we're going to click on Find Client. You can either use this button that says Find Client or this button that says Find Client. There's absolutely no difference. And then we're going to search for Amanda Test Clients. Okay, we don't have any matching people, so we know that she's not in the database. So we're going to click on Add New. And then we're going to put in her last name, put in her address, all the rest of the information that we've collected about her. And then we're going to answer this client data that you see on the right-hand side. So we've got, do you feel comfortable communicating in English? Which method is okay for you? Phone call, email, text, mail, whatever. Who's their health insurance provider? You have a list of all of the ones in Ohio. There's also a spot for other where you could enter it if it's not on the list. If the person doesn't want to tell you, or if the person doesn't know, you also have those options. How many children under the age of 18 live in the household? When you click on that question, it gives you a number box so that you can fill in how many children there are. What type of income? Have you or a member of your household served in the military? Are you a current client of any of the following agencies? The social worker or caseworker, again, is a free text. And when you fill it in, it will be saved into the client's information. Where was the initial registration site? And if you tick the beneficiary ID, it'll let you know if you've not saved the record. You click on yes, save it. Clicking on beneficiary ID checkbox opens the information to capture their Medicaid ID, the Medicaid confirmed date, and all of these other ID numbers. Once you save and close that, you can see that we've saved the client record. You can click save again if you'd like to, just to make sure, but it always gets saved when it says save. And then when you go to close the client, you'll get this text box that says there are anonymous actions that have not been linked to the client. This is really referring, don't freak out when you see this, it's really referring to the fact that you started a transaction with the client and you've started a transaction. So you just always want to say yes and save it. And then you've saved a screening data form. Do you want to save this to the client's record? Yes. And then when you close that screen, you can see now that we've got all of the client information. And we've got, you know, are you a client of any of the following facilities? These are all the questions that I just answered. So you're always going to have all this information available to you. I didn't put in the person's address, so this address line is blank. But normally their address and their phone number would be displayed here. And then moving forward, same way of searching. If you want to search for any services for the person, you can save a referral, you can save multiple referrals. And then if you're done doing the screening and assessment and making referrals for them, you would click End Contact, and it's going to take us, if we've missed putting in required information, it's going to tell us that we're missing statistical information. So I did not, as I mentioned, I didn't fill out the client's address or phone number. So these are required. There's also some information on page 3 that's going to be required. So page 3 is our data page.
So those are only for navigation types, Kat. Was one
Oh, sorry. I just need the top one, the screening only.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm missing, let me go to edit my client. So if I go back to the people screen, I can click on edit client. I can add her address. Put in her phone number. And I missed another question on here, I know.
I think it's the health insurance provider type. That was the HMO one.
Oh, this one. Yep. Okay. Click save. It's saved. Close. If I click close without clicking saved, it will give me a reminder that I haven't saved the information, and I have to do that before I move forward. And then when you're done, if you have filled out all of the required information, it'll let you end page 3 data beneficiary ID.
That's that beneficiary ID form.
Yeah, I opened it. I didn't put any information. That's why. And then when you click on End Contact, you'll be back at the Ready screen where you have your other incompletes of clients that you can work on next. So sorry about being a little disjointed at the beginning of that, but hopefully that made some sense once I did it in the right order. Questions about that?
So there are a couple questions from the chat here, and I just want to clarify both of them. To Sheree, you asked, we'll always have to link that to the client record. Which part?
She was talking about the error that was going to come up every time, and we just had to click yes. So that's going to come up on every single every time we do something with that. We'll have to link that and hit yes.
Kat, that is the anonymous contact message.
Oh, the anonymous thing? I believe so. I mean, some of this stuff is still in flux with the developers. So I'm hoping that you won't need to, but as of right now, yes, you will just need to always link it to the client.
Okay.
And Latoya, you have a question about where this information came from? Because there's a couple different places you're getting some of this information. Which information in particular?
Right. When it asks, like, what agencies are you involved in? At what point do we ask that?
That's in your conversation with the client. So some of it, Kat, can you open up the client, just to that client again?
Yep.
All the stuff in the client data, for the most part, is going to be from your conversation with the client, because you'll of course be using all of that to figure out, if they have a caseworker that they can connect back with or anything like that. This information here, for the most part, you'll be asking them. Like some of them, like their HMO, you might have from the label. And then some of this other client information on the left, where it's like their address and their zip and all of that, that'll be entered from the label when the screening is entered. So if you're entering the screening, you'll be entering that at the same time, just from the label that the site places on it. Or, if it's one of the metro sites where there may be a data entry person, or there may be a person assigned to data entry each day, when that specialist comes to pick up the incomplete contact, that information on the left should already be entered. But essentially the left you're getting from the label, the right you're getting from kind of that assessment you're performing with the client.
Okay.
So I want to spend a little bit before you. So when you are, the demographics is coming off of the face sheet or off of the information off the label. But when you sit down face to face with that person and you start to do, it's just basically your interview with that person, you'll be asking those questions as part of your assessment. The same assessment that you normally would do over the phone, we're just including some additional questions that need to be asked that you would ask them while you're working with them face to face.
Okay, so there's a paper script somewhere or going to be developed at some point?
There's no necessary script, but it's just, you can click open this data form, and you can ask those questions as you're talking to them about what's going on.
Okay. All righty.
I have a question.
Sure.
So is it possible if we can go back to that first screen?
Sure, can do that. Just give my computer a second to catch up. It sometimes slows down with the GoToMeeting. Hang on, sorry. I don't want to delete that contact because I want to be able to have something to work with. So okay, save and close. Yeah. Oh, come on. Seriously? There we go. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so my question is over here with the incompletes, so let's say it's our first day at the site. So this right here is going to be blank until we do that first screening, right? So my question is, where is this information coming from? These names over here on the incomplete.
On the right, it comes from this app that you're using to fill out the social needs screening.
Okay, and then from there we can start the navigation. We would pick that name and then start that navigation.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, I just want to clarify that. All right, thank you.
Yep, perfect. Yeah,
right,
great question. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's why I was saying, depending on which site you're at, if you're at a site where you have a dedicated person doing the data entry at one of the high volume outpatient sites, you may some days be in a role where you're starting with that app and entering those screenings from scratch and kind of building out, that some of that client data. You may also be in a situation where you're just starting from that incomplete, where you're meeting with a person and Sam Smith comes in and you just have to pull up your incompletes and say, oh, okay, here he is, and then that information will be populated already. Does that make sense?
So, Matt, I can't
Somewhat,
remember.
yeah.
I can't remember if you told us, will these incompletes be broken down by site, or will everyone see all of them?
Everyone will either, you can see there's a radio toggle down at the bottom. So you can either see just your own. So if you are working at one of the sites like Mother Baby or definitely St. Vincent, you know, you're entering all your own screenings and stuff into the app, and it's building these incompletes. So if you just show your own, you know exactly kind of where you stand. If you're working at any of the sites with multiple folks, you're going to see all incomplete, but you can sort. And what I would recommend sorting by, so what I set up is that whoever is doing the data entry at each site is actually going to be logging in to a site username rather than to like their name. So there's a username set up for each site for the data entry person. So you'll be able to sort by the user. So like cardio is its own username. I don't think we've any entered with those usernames. But so if you do a staff search, you'll be able to use the staff search to separate them by site. So you'll have all your cardios together or all your internal meds together, what have you.
That works.
Any other?
Okay.
Yeah, I think I know, I'm obviously not doing the day-to-day work. I think that as you sit down and just go through it, it'll probably become more clear. I know that for me, when I do things, I learn better. So, and the software, you know, the developers kind of, they're making things work together the best way that they were able to. So that's why, you know, there's that separate website app to do some of the intake. And, you know, having different people on the call, you know, some folks are going to have one role, some folks are going to have another role. So it's kind of, you know, we're trying to fit everything in, but depending upon, you know, what your role in the project is, some things that we're showing you today, you may not end up having to do. Okay, so then if the client has already done the intake, and I'm doing this without my notes in front of me, we are going to click on Start New Contact. We're going to search for the person. We always want to search for the person because we want to always avoid duplication. We don't want to enter someone if they've already been entered into the database. And again, if there are two clients with the same name, not very common occurrence, but it may happen. When you do a search, you'll see this snapshot so that you can verify that you're finding the right person. You know, you could double check their address or their birth date or their phone number or some combination thereof. If you've got the right person, click on Select. This is the screen that we just saw. It's all of the client information. And when we're doing not the standard screening and assessment, we're going to be going into navigation. So we always want to make sure that we change the contact type if we're doing navigation to one of the choices of the navigation. Obviously, if it's the initial screening, you know that. If it's an additional screening, the person has already been seen and they're going through an additional screening, you'd pick that. If you're performing a follow-up. So it's just important to remember about the contact type, and you want to always change it when you're in navigation to reflect that you're in navigation. And part of the reason that that's so important is for everyone to, all the reports that need to be sent back to the funders need to reflect which calls or transactions are navigation versus the screening and assessment. So then once I change that, Matt, help me. This is where we're going to be going to, or Sheree, is this where we're going to be creating the action plan?
This is the CRS, right? Did you do CRS?
I don't know.
Oh, this is the navigation. I'm sorry.
Yeah, navigation.
Yeah, you're in navigation. Yes, this is yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah, where was I creating the CRS? That was
at the end of that contact.
Right.
At the end of the first contact? At the end of the standard AHC and assessment?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But that printer portal, it's okay. The printer portal's not, I don't think, quite ready yet to show, so it's kind of difficult to demonstrate.
Okay. Well, I'm also confused. Oh, I should be in TS4, right? Is that where the...
Oh, yep. That's why neither of them are showing up.
Okay, hang on. Bear with me. I was looking for a button that isn't here because I'm in the wrong place. So ignore what I'm doing right now.
Hey, well, Kat gets into, so basically a lot of the functionality for this is still in a testing database. So she's just logging into a different server where they have that set up. Caitlin asked the question about, for the folks who are in the ED and for the clients who we aren't able to sit down with, you know, they're filling out a screening and we're creating a tailored CRS for them based on how they answer the questions, but we don't actually have time to sit down with them. I think, and Caitlin, you can clarify this, you're talking about those client data questions like the, you know, do you have a social worker at this agency? You know what I mean? Those are the ones you're asking about?
Yeah, those are the ones that I was thinking about. And then even like if we're on the fast track side and we don't have the time to sit down with someone, but we have their paperwork, we can just easily like go through and give it to them and let them leave, but we're not going to be able to sit there and ask all these questions.
Right, right. Yeah. So I think, and Sheree, you can, I know, so I think it really is just about making sure that there's nothing required that's not required by CMS, essentially. I can't think of another way to do it without creating a separate contact type, but I think that gets even more complicated because it wouldn't default to that one, so you'd have to know to change it and all of that.
Right.
But Sheree, does that make sense?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, so at the end of the standard screening and assessment, you're going to go to create the action plan, which is if you have the client open, you're going to click on the center button, client activity and notes. And when you come to this screen that gives you the summary and the history of their transactions, above that, you notice that there's something that says AHC Action Plan. And from here, when you click that, it's going to open a new window for you. It's going to, if there are action plans in existence, they're going to show up here. This person, we just started working with them, so they don't have an action plan yet. You can see that we do have the button that allows us to add the new plan. And when we click on that, it pulls all the client's information. It also tells us who created the plan. This is populated from the screening. So when I chose St. Vincent Charity, when I did the initial patient screening, that's why that's populated here. It gives us today's date as default, but you can change that. The action plan status, there's a choice of open or closed. Obviously, right now it's open. The action plan opt-out, that's if the person ends up saying, you know what, I'm not going to go forward with this, you would say yes, action plan opt-out and close it, but we're not going to do that. There's a spot for strengths, area of need. And in the area of need, you've got those critical areas that we've been screening for. So we can start with any of these. We're going to start with mental health. When is the need identified date? So if we're starting today, we can say it's today, add the need. And then once we click on add the need, you can see that now we can type into the goals box. And so we're going to whatever the goal might be, what's the target date? Again, when you click in that box, it's going to give you a calendar. You can move forward and backward. Well, I wouldn't think that, unless you're doing the data entry for things that have occurred in the past, I'm guessing that, you know, typically you're going to be moving forward on the calendar. If this goal has already been completed, you can put in the complete date. If it's something that the patient is still working on, we're going to leave that open. What's the action step? What's the target date for the action step? What's the action step status? And then once it's done, you know, we would put in the complete date. We can click on add action if we need to add more action steps. So you notice that when I click on add action, the first step that we had moves down and it gives us a new add action step. So however finitely you need to break down the goal into the different action steps, you just keep going and add as many steps as you need. And then there's we had the area of need above the goal. We also have what is the need status. Is it resolved? Is it unresolved? Is it in progress? If you say that it's been resolved, you'll need to indicate what the resolution was. And I'm kind of combining showing you this action plan as a whole, whereas, you know, you'd probably be doing this on different dates. You create the action plan all on one date, but then each time that you're meeting with the person, you can indicate what's happening with the action steps. And when you've created the action plan, we're going to click on save. If you've gotten the electronic signature, you're going to click on save. And it saves it for you. And then you're going to close this window and it brings you back to the client information. I guess that's something are they going to have to do the beneficiary form on every contact?
The beneficiary ID?
Yeah, it
Shouldn't
wouldn't let
that
me
hang out?
That's what I was thinking. That's something maybe put on your list.
A client form.
See?
Yeah, let me put that on my list, because yeah, that should just stay linked to the client.
Or maybe it was this over here. No, I don't know, because I'm in TS4. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, but maybe put that on your. Okay, and then you'll end the contact. If you've filled out all the information, it won't tell you to keep doing it. But we're also in the test database, so some things are a little wonky. Yeah, because it tells me that it already exists. All right, well, that's not going to happen. Okay. Questions about that? Okay. And then moving forward, working with the person in the future, you're going to change to navigation when you're doing navigation. And again, pulling up, searching for the client first, then pulling up their record, changing the contact type to reflect the fact that you'll be doing navigation. And then doing any other work that you need to when you're doing the navigation, whether it's going in back into their action plan. You can see that we have currently one open action plan. When I clicked on that button, I can open this plan and then I can update the different steps that we've gone through.
You have to select a need from the drop down.
Thank you. You saw I was looking for that. Yeah, so you can see that on the drop down we've changed. It's gone from, before it was just mental health, and now it's mental health identified need. And so you can see that these are all the action steps that we've saved. So once the person goes back through, we can edit each of the steps of the plan. So on step 1, call a shrink, we can click on edit. It pulls the step back into our edit area. We could change the step if we wanted to, or if the person has completed this particular step, you can click on complete, indicate what date it was completed, and save it. And then you can see that the status has changed to complete. If for some reason one of the steps doesn't apply anymore, you can delete that. You can also add action steps. You can also have multiple areas of need. So whatever the different steps are, again, in progress, refused, and once you save that, it will update the action plan. And you can come back to that at any time by going into the client record and then going to client activity and notes, AHC action plan.
You can get there from the edit client as well.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that, thanks. From edit client as well, above the client record or the client screen.
I have a question. That wouldn't be under navigation follow-up, under the contact type? Because it says initial screening navigation only. But if I'm going to look up a previous client, that wouldn't be follow-up?
That would be follow-up, yeah. Yeah, the initial screening navigation only is where you're creating the action plan, and then once an action plan is created, any like interaction is either going to be like you initiate follow-up, or I guess the person reaches out to you somehow, or they've done an additional screening during the 12-month navigation case period. And so you're being alerted, hey, this person came back to the clinical site, they opted into the screening again, so they have a new screening, and you go, oh, I already have an action plan for them. So you're saying, oh, well, that's an additional screening.
Okay.
So yeah, that's correct.
I just got confused because it said, it didn't say this at first, the follow-up. It was under initial screening.
Yeah, I think I said follow-up, I think, and then I think I didn't select the right one. Okay. So, yeah, sorry about that. Thanks. Thank you for clarifying.
You'll notice on your data page, too, you can see there's navigation-only data on the right there. You have the one required data piece that's for screenings, and then you actually have a few that are going to be required for any time you have a navigation interaction. And so this is all, for the most part, anything that you're going to see required to fill out is stuff that we are just responsible for reporting to CMS. So like this encounter type, duration, the encounter location, the provider type, all of these are like CMS data points.
Any other questions about any of that? Okay. And then the other thing that might happen is that you want to schedule a follow-up.
I just want to point out what just happened there when you close out of that contact. I'm sorry. So when you open, you saw Kat had to select a reason when she closed out of that because she didn't make any referrals in that. So you can see, you know, I think we're used to through 2-on-1, you know, you're always going to have an unmet need or a referral saved. It's possible when you're navigating folks, of course, that through that action plan, you may not be making new referrals. You may just be talking to them about where they're at, you know, with that initial set of referrals. Noting that they're in progress, noted that they've completed some stuff, and then moving on to work on the next stuff. So if you don't record new referrals, it's just going to come up right now with, we just need to save something. And so what you saw before is it's going to kind of pull that reason for contact. And the reason for contact, we have like a navigation/action plan follow-up, no referrals.
Yeah, let me just fill out the required fields, and then
I think we'll be pulling back on those, it sounds like, based on Kaylin's question earlier.
We ordered 15. I only had 10. So we're not runner. We left 2. So we left 2 when we came down because they were fighting with us. At the very beginning, they give them to us. So then they only gave us enough for the people that I had at the time. They didn't give me the other ones out.
So this is the screen that Matt was talking about. If we don't make any referrals, if we don't save any unmet needs, you'll get this question about what was the reason for the contact. So there's only one choice, but that's why we see it if you're not making referrals or saving any unmet needs. So you would just highlight the navigation action plan only and save it, and then it allows you to end the contact. And then you may want to schedule a follow-up, a time to call the person back, a time when the person has made an appointment to come back in, whatever the reason is, if you're actually scheduling it. What you would do is you would open the database, click on Start New Contact. You would pull up the client record. I already pulled it up while I was talking. So we've got her information open. And then way up at the top, it's difficult to see probably on your screen, there are a bunch of choices in this menu bar, and one of them is follow-up. So we want to make sure that the contact type is correct for what we're doing. When we click on follow-up, it's going to give us the opportunity to schedule this with the patient. So, excuse me. So it's pulled Lisa's name into the follow-up form. It's pulled Lisa's phone number into the form. If she had an email, her email would be listed here. And then we can decide which date we want to make an appointment with her, choose it from the calendar. You've got the, broad morning, afternoon, evening, or you have half-hour increments. How are we going to follow up with her? Is it going to be an email, a phone, or a text? What kind of follow-up is it going to be? Is it going to be for navigation follow-up or for an assessment? And then your name will be in this box. Whatever you're logged in as. I'm logged in a different way in a test database, but typically it would be your name. If you were going to give it to someone else, you can choose from the drop-down. And when you save the follow-up, all of that information will be put together for you here in the follow-up assigned to this contact. If you wanted to, you could schedule multiple follow-ups. If it was something where you were going to be meeting with the same patient every week, you could add several at the same time. But if you're just doing the one, then after you click on Save Follow-Up, you can close this window. It brings you back to the previous screen where you were in case you need to do more work here, whether you need to update the action plan, whether you need to make more referrals for the person. You can do anything from this screen. If you're done, you just click on End Contact. And remember, we saw at the bottom the toggle button that allows us to switch from My Complete to All Incomplete. On the lower left-hand side, there's a toggle button that says Follow-ups and Previous Contact. So when you come in each day, you can click on Follow-ups. You'll see all the follow-ups that you're supposed to perform on that day, or follow-ups that had been scheduled but not yet performed. So we can see we've got one that's overdue. It was due on the 22nd to call Lisa Simpson. When I want to perform the follow-up, you notice that it's this light blue color again. So if I double click on this, something's going to happen. In this case, what's going to happen is it's going to open the Perform Follow-Up window. So it has the information about what kind of follow-up we're doing. You can also see the contact summary, so maybe you don't recall what this person's needs were. It gives you all of the different contact markers, all the different statistics, so you can refresh your memory about this, or if it's someone that you haven't dealt with before. And you can just toggle back and forth that way. And your name will be here in the Performed By. It automatically puts in the date and the time. And then you're going to indicate which follow-up action you performed. So right now, this follow-up action is navigation, close the current contact and open a new contact, because we want to always open a new contact when we're performing follow-up. So we're going to highlight that. We're going to save the follow-up. We're going to end the contact. And then we're going to start a new contact and do whatever else the person needs information about or needs assistance with. Obviously, every time you open the contact, you want to ensure that you're choosing the right contact type. And then the same steps go through. You're going to search for and find the contact and move forward with whatever work you need to do.
I have a question. So is that for the same person when we end the contact and do another new contact? What you just talked about, is that for the same person?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is. Matt or Sheree, did either of you have anything to add to that or clarification on that?
Yeah, I mean, my just constant clarification on this, because it is just so different from kind of what you'd be used to on 211, and you know, it's different, honestly, from how I would love to have it structured, just because of CMS's requirements. I mean, the important thing to recognize is that really for any interaction, you always need to open it as a new contact, because of the way that we're reporting it out. You kind of have to describe all of those data points you're filling out. You're kind of describing what is happening during that encounter. So I know, you know, you may be accustomed to scheduling, like being in a contact, scheduling a follow-up within that contact, then just reopening that contact and continuing with it as if it's kind of a singular prolonged encounter. Whereas kind of the way CMS is viewing this project is these series of completely compartmentalized encounters. So for every single follow-up, you just need to have a new contact. For the screening and the assessment piece, because those people are not necessarily proceeding into navigation, that is always going to be its own contact. And then if they do happen to go into navigation, that's a new contact. And so that's where you kind of have your, you know, the first big divide is between the screening assessment piece and the navigation piece. And then every navigation event or encounter is its own new contact, where you, again, are collecting, you know, those data pieces, and then also updating that action plan every time to at least update the need status date for your identified needs. And that's another note I need, is it looks like those required fields, Refer needs to still set those up, because it let you close that without filling out that need status piece, which is like one of the big CMS.
Wow, yeah. Other questions?
Oh, there is a question. Caitlin is also asking, are we printing the CRS from here? You are not. There is going to be a printer portal for the action plan, for the CRS, for anything you're printing. That is in testing right now. It was designed. Here, she's got it right here. So it's going to be, you know, it's a search by both the date and the place. So you'll be able to search for, you know, it should default to today's date. And then you search by the site, and then you just look at the clients who were seen at that site, and then you'll have an option to print either a CRS or an action plan, or both, if they have a screening and assessment contact and a navigation contact from that same date. And then this is where you'll print everything from. And all of this, like Kat mentioned that there's going to be a different URL for these. You're going to have a central landing page for your screening tool, for your screening tool and the printer portal, so that you're not going to two different websites to do this. It'll be like a single landing page. We just have to purchase the domain. So one of the things I would imagine you're very much getting a sense of is that all of, about maybe 50% of the stuff that we're showing you did not exist like prior to this project. So a lot of this functionality for Refer was built specifically for us to kind of execute on this. Part of the issue, though, has been that CMS has been changing the data requirements on a regular basis since the winter. And so we didn't even have finalized data requirements until about 3 weeks ago. So we've kind of had to not just kind of build this, but be in constant redesign on it, because we keep getting these new updates from CMS about newly required data elements and changes to the existing ones. So it's been, you know, a scramble just to keep up with that and get everything. So we're doing the best we can now to get everything functional now that supposedly we have the final set of requirements.
And yeah, so to go back to the question, there will be somewhere in ReferNet a button that will allow you to print the CRS for.
Is that real?
Your person. Is
that true?
I thought,
awesome.
or else there'll be a central landing page. I'm hoping that there's going to be a button like the action plan button. So, even if it goes out of ReferNet, I'm hoping that it'll be, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like I want another button somewhere that says print CRS, and then it could go out to something like this, which is fine, but I'd like it to be more cohesive. I'm not sure.
Do we know if we go and we print the CRS and then we go on to do the action plan and we print the action plan and we go in the portal, will we be able to just print them all at one time, or do we have to keep toggling between the two and printing each individual one?
I mean, they exist as completely separate documents.
So if we print, will it still be sitting in the portal when we open up the portal, and then will we be able to just click off the ones that we want, or will it just, I guess that's what I'm trying to see, is it always going to be going individually, where I print one, then I got to get in the portal to print it, then I go back in to do the action plan, and then I go back in the portal to print the action plan?
Yeah, you'll always have to be in the portal to print the action plan. There's some question as to whether or not we may be able to print the CRS out of Refer. They're looking into that. The action plan will always have to be printed, I know, from the portal, just because of how it's set up. But mainly you're going to be doing your printing from I would plan to do it from the printer portal at this point, is what I would say, especially, at the outset with these pilots. So I would say, if you're able to go directly into navigation with somebody, you may just wait until the end and just print. It's up to you how you want to handle, how you want to have staff handle that, Sheree. But they would be going in here, opening the CRS, printing that, and opening the action plan and printing that, if they're doing the entire thing at once, of course.
I guess what I'm asking is, if I'm on the CRS and I'm ready to print the CRS and I click whatever button is there to print the CRS,
mm-hmm.
Once I go into the portal, is it just sitting there waiting for me to click on something so that it does print, or as soon as I hit the button to print the CRS, is it automatically printing? That's what I'm trying to find out. Is everything just sitting waiting for me to go inside the portal and then initiate the print for everything, or not? I'm not sure I understand what I'm saying.
So anything, yeah, so if but the CRS just creates off of your contact.
Okay.
So the CRS, when you open that contact, any referrals you have recorded and any needs that are identified on a screening, you're creating that CRS in real time, basically, from the printing portal. So that doesn't really pre-exist anywhere. You're kind of generating it from the printer portal, okay, based on the contact, from that date's contact. The action plan is what the action plan is for that client, for that, you know what I mean? So the action plan is, you can put in any date and it's based on the contact date. So if you had, a follow-up from May 26th, where you did action plan work, you should be able to enter May 26th in there and you'll see, oh, that was that version of the action plan that I had, I hope. That's something to clarify with Refer. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, in a sense, but I'll show you what else I'm asking you later.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way that you can see right now, and again, things, as Matt said, are still kind of in flux, but right now, you've got the two different icons, and when I click either icon, it's opening, hopefully you could see this at top, it's opening a new tab. So then, yeah, you would have to go to that tab, here's the CRS, and there would be, a print button, up here on my version, it's up here on the right. Your mileage may vary depending on which browser you're using and which operating system. The same thing with the patient action plan. When you open the plan, there is going to be a print button somewhere. So I don't know if that helped or if that just kept things fuzzy.
It's hard to show this. This was just finished yesterday. for a testing version, not even finished. This is just a functional as of yesterday. So until we do more testing with it and look at the functionality, it's difficult. Yeah, I mean, this was just built.
Okay. So I'm just trying to see for people. Can you hear me? Because it clicked me out.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, my computer just shut down in the middle of updating something. But I'm thinking for people like Renee, who is in an inpatient psychiatric unit, and she's working with patients on the unit, she has to go downstairs to print. So is she going to have to, is there any way for her to go in and print all of those at the end of the day to take back up, or does she have to keep going in and printing, go in the portal for each, client, and then, keep running up and down the stairs? I'm trying to see if once she prints it or once she's in the portal, can she just go in and print everything that was sent to the portal, or is it like different than what I'm thinking?
No, I mean, because the CRS, you're actually live generating. So you have to print each document individually.
Okay.
And there's really no way that I can, but with the action plan is one thing, but that the CRS, just because of the way it's set up to be created from that contact each time you generate it, like I said, it's not like you're sending, it's not like it's like, you're not using Refer to send a PDF to like a download site, which would have been the other way to do it. But if we'd done it that way, you'd have to actually download a physical file and then print the file.
I'm thinking about like here, and we print, it sends our stuff to the printer, and then we have to go put our code in, and then we can pick it up at any time. I'm trying to see if there's a way for her to kind of print.
Oh, well, I mean, she may be able to send a bunch of stuff and queue it to the printer from there, but she'd still be sending it individually. Like, there's not a way to, like, click, like, send everything here to a printer, but she may be able to send everything individually and then print it all based on your printer function. Yeah. Print it all at once. Yeah, I don't know how the printing queue is going to work.
Okay.
I have a question unrelated to printing.
Cool.
Okay.
Okay, I just want to make
have
sure
answers. We don't have answers related to printing.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll try and
related.
answer.
Well, it's kind of back to my earlier question. So, like, if we're working on the fast track side of the ED and we're looking over someone's paper and, like, we don't have time to enter any of the information into the system, like, is there a way that we could just, like, put their name, their zip code, and their age and, like, get a CRS so we can give it to them and get them out so that, like, the timing's not messed up and that they still get the resources they need?
That's a workflow. Is there a plan then to data enter that, and that those are getting data entered later? I'm just not positive on that on-site workflow.
But I don't really know.
So what I'm thinking, so there's 3 people at South Point. We did not bring a data entry person over there because that third person is going to function as that data entry person. All 3 of them won't be on the floor at the same time. So they still could have the same concept as Metro. When a person comes in, they're being seen and being waited to be seen by a navigator, that third person can be inputting the information. So it still should already be there when you go to work with that patient. Now, as far as them waiting, because they're in the ER, I don't know if they're going to wait to be seen to move forward to get their CRS, but at least the information will already be there to pull from. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, that answers my question. Thank you.
Yeah, so there's 3 of you, and so that role can rotate. I think I had mentioned that maybe one day, Latoya may want to do some of the data entry versus, seeing the patients on the fast track. You guys can switch that up, but it should be that third person will kind of rotate amongst the 3 of you. So.
Yeah, I should say there's nothing really in the system preventing you from, like, just generating a CRS linked to, like, basic client information. The only problem then becomes that if that information is never entered, then we can't report it to CMS, and it just becomes, it doesn't really count towards the project, and it's not anything that, so, like, from a practical standpoint, you could do it. We would just, it would become a quality improvement issue on the back end, because we wouldn't be able to count that client.
And we'll have to we'll have to work through some of that to see, again, how quickly is that patient getting through that fast track side? Their goal, again, is 90 minutes, but right now they're at 120. So there still may be time where we can get them seen or get their information in, at least to get them a CRS. We just have to see what that flow is like once we get started with the pilot.
Any other questions, Matt, anything, or Sheree, anything else from you all?
I was just going to say that we're going to need to schedule probably maybe about an hour to go over appointment quest, because I realized at the start of this we weren't going to have time to go through that. And that's just the software you guys are going to use when you're scheduling, if you need to schedule a navigation appointment for someone.
I have them scheduled for training for tomorrow and Friday, so whichever day, Matt, that you want to.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll work out a time for that. So that's the kind of last initial piece that you have not seen. So at this point, you've kind of seen everything you'll be using, even if, like, in some cases, the printer portal. Like I said, we're trying to finalize that this week. And again, this is always helpful because then it gives me some ideas of just some issues with those required fields, which is good. And then, yeah, so the only thing you haven't seen is the appointment scheduling piece, but that's relatively straightforward compared to, kind of learning how to. The hardest thing with this is really like habituating yourself and how to step through it, because there just is a complexity to it based on the way kind of CMS kind of views these encounters as these individual events, and the fact that CMS is requiring us to just collect so many kind of small data points along the way as you're working with clients. And so I think it makes it a lot less streamlined than kind of you'd hope if there weren't so many different little things you had to make sure were getting populated, put in the right place, and, labeled correctly and all of that. Yeah.
And I'm thinking that we may end up doing not really a refresher, but for lack of a better term, a refresher, maybe next week, probably the week after that, just when things are a little bit more together and the printer portal is in place. And that way we can be a little less just disjointed. So, and just go back over and once you all have been using it and becoming a little bit more familiar. So, maybe not an hour and a half, maybe just an hour or 45 minutes, depending, so that you can see that. And that's something I'll talk to folks about, to see if you Matt, if you and Sheree, if you want to do that. But, I appreciate that everyone was kind of flexible about, because I'm still learning with you. And as mentioned, the software is still kind of being built and moved around based on what CMS needs. So thank you all for being flexible about that today.
I'm sure we'll need another follow-up. We'll play around with it a little bit together, and then that way, if they have questions, we can schedule a time to come back together and go over.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay.
All right. Well, if you all don't have anything else and we've answered the questions that have come up, thanks everybody for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Kat, for
thank you.
putting that together. And there is a manual. There's a manual with all content, I should say, that Kat has put together. And I can send that out. The issue you'll notice is that a lot of these functions, like the action plan and things, are not available to you in Refer yet because they have just not been placed into the main contact module. So, but we'll definitely get that out to you just so you can see it in a kind of written format with some screenshots and everything.
Yep. Yeah, well, thanks everybody. Go do good.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.